The human sat quietly in the bright alien chamber, his eyes scanning the strange lights that floated across the ceiling. He had been taken from Earth weeks ago, not as a prisoner, but as a guest. At least, that was what the aliens kept saying. Still, every time the doors closed behind him, he felt more like a specimen inside a glass cage. The aliens were not cruel, they were curious. They wanted to understand humans, our minds, our bodies, our ways of living. Most of the time they asked simple questions about food, about language, about history. But tonight felt different. The air in the chamber was heavy, and the group of aliens stared at him with a strange kind of excitement. Among them was one alien who stood out. She was shorter than the others, with bright silver eyes that seemed to shine in the dim light. While the rest of the aliens were cold and serious, she was playful, curious, and always asking questions no one dared to ask. Her name was Lyra, and she had already broken many rules just by talking to him in private. But tonight, she did something that made even her own people fall silent. She leaned forward and asked, in her soft but clear voice, "Wait, humans reproduce this way?" The human froze. The chamber, which had been filled with whispers and movement, suddenly grew silent. Every alien in the room turned their head sharply toward her. Their eyes widened, some with shock, some with amusement. The human's heart began to beat faster. He did not know whether to laugh, to explain, or to hide his face. Lyra, however, did not laugh. Her silver eyes were fixed on him, glowing with a strange hunger, not for food, not for conquest, but for knowledge. It was not the cold curiosity of science, but something warmer, something personal. The human cleared his throat and said slowly, "Yes, that is how humans reproduce." The other aliens started murmuring again. Their voices sounded like a swarm of insects buzzing through the air. Some shook their heads, some laughed in disbelief. To them, the process was strange, maybe even primitive. But to Lyra, it was not funny. It was fascinating. She tilted her head, her silver hair falling across her shoulders. "And if this is true, can I try too?" The human nearly choked on his breath. His face flushed red, though the aliens might not even understand what that meant. The chamber erupted in shock. One alien gasped loudly. Another covered his mouth as if the words were forbidden. The leader of the group slammed his hand against the glowing table, his voice booming, "Lyra, this is not the time for such nonsense!" But Lyra did not back down. Her gaze never left the human. Her lips curled into a small smile, half daring, half innocent. "This is not nonsense," she said calmly. "If humans are so different, if their way of life is unique, then why should we not learn by experience?" The human sat frozen, unsure if he should answer or stay silent. He could feel the weight of a dozen alien eyes pressing against him. In that moment, he was no longer just a visitor. He was something else, something dangerous, something mysterious, something they wanted to understand in a way books and machines could not explain. The leader barked again, ordering silence. The whispers died down, but the tension did not fade. Everyone was thinking the same thing, but no one dared to say it out loud. What if this alien girl was serious? What if a human could change their world in ways they never imagined? The human looked back at Lyra. Her silver eyes burned with determination. There was no joke in her question, no play in her smile. She was serious, and she was waiting for his answer. His throat felt dry, his chest heavy. He wanted to speak, but the words would not come, because deep inside, he knew that her question was not just curiosity. It was the beginning of something larger, something dangerous, something that could change the fate of both their species. And so the first part of their strange story began, not with war, not with peace treaties, but with a simple question asked by a curious alien girl. "Wait, humans reproduce this way? Can I try too?" The human's silence was his only answer. But in that silence, a fire had been lit, one that would not die out so easily. The question did not die inside that single chamber. Like a spark landing on dry grass, it spread quickly through the alien station. Every corridor, every dining hall, every lab was soon filled with whispers about the human and the girl who dared to ask. "Did you hear what Lyra said?" One alien murmured. "She wants to try the human's way of reproduction." Another replied, their voice full of disbelief. Some laughed as if it was the most foolish thing they had ever heard. Others spoke in low, serious tones, warning that such curiosity could be dangerous. The human did not leave his chamber for hours. He sat alone, replaying the moment in his mind. Her words echoed inside his skull, too sharp to ignore, too strange to dismiss. He wondered why she had said it so openly. Was she brave? Foolish? Or was there something else hidden in her question? When the doors slid open again, Lyra stood there. She walked inside as if nothing unusual had happened. Her silver eyes shone with the same stubborn light. "You look worried," she said softly. "But you should not be." The human raised an eyebrow. "Do you know what you've started?" She tilted her head, pretending not to understand. "The others will not forget this," he continued. "They will not stop talking about you, about me." Lyra smiled faintly. "Good, let them talk. It means they are thinking." But the human did not share her calm. He could already feel the invisible weight of attention pressing on him. Every alien glance lingered low. Longer than before, every whisper seemed to fall quiet when he entered a room. He was no longer just a guest. He was a mystery, a puzzle wrapped in flesh and blood. The rumors spread farther than he expected. Some aliens began sneaking into the archives, searching for old records of humanity. Others started to question their leaders. Why were humans never truly studied in this way before? And in the center of all this growing storm stood Lyra, unafraid. Her voice carried the question again and again. If humans live like this, why not try? Why not learn? One evening, the human was escorted to a large, circular hall. Dozens of aliens stood waiting, their voices low and sharp. At the far end, the Council of Elders sat, their faces carved from stone. The leader who had silenced Lyra earlier now pointed at him. "Human, you must answer us clearly. Is it true? Do you reproduce as the girl described?" The human swallowed. He wanted to refuse, to stay silent, but he knew silence would not save him this time. "Yes," he said finally, "it is true." A wave of reaction moved through the hall. Some aliens laughed, others gasped, others simply stared. To them, this truth was not just strange, it was powerful, almost dangerous, because in that single truth lay the possibility of mixing, of joining, of changing what they thought could never change. Lyra stood up in front of everyone, her silver hair glowing under the pale lights. "Then I ask again," she said, her voice clear. "Why can I not try? Why should we fear knowledge? Why should we fear life?" The room exploded with arguments. Some shouted that it was forbidden, that their kind should not mix with outsiders. Others whispered that it was tempting, that the human's way was natural, maybe even beautiful. The council slammed their staffs against the floor, demanding order, but order did not come. The question had alt. Ready escaped their control, the human stood frozen in the middle of it all. He could see the fear, the anger, the curiosity, and he realized something very dangerous. The aliens were not laughing at him anymore. They were looking at him as if he carried a secret treasure inside his body, something they wanted, something they feared. When the meeting finally ended, the council gave no answers. They dismissed him back to his chamber, but he could still hear the voices echoing in the hall behind him. The question was alive now, burning in every alien mind, and at the center of it all was Lyra, fearless, determined, and still watching him with those glowing eyes. That night, as he tried to sleep, he thought about what this meant. He was only one man, far from Earth, surrounded by beings who saw him as both wonder and danger. But he could not escape the truth. Because of one curious alien girl, he was no longer just a guest on this station. He had become something far more complicated, a secret everyone wanted to understand, and perhaps to claim the alien council. The council chamber was a place most aliens feared. It was not dark, but its silence carried weight heavier than stone. The walls glowed with shifting colors, alive with streams of information. Every council elder sat on a tall chair, their eyes sharp, their hands resting on silver staffs that hummed with hidden power. The human was brought inside, footsteps echoing against the smooth floor. Lyra followed behind him, her face calm, but her silver eyes burning with fire. The elders had already heard the rumors, whispers about reproduction, whispers about desire, whispers about mixing with the outsider. And tonight, they wanted answers. The eldest of them, a towering alien with skin like crystal, leaned forward. "Human," he said, his voice deep and slow. "We summoned you because of the chaos your presence has caused." He paused, letting the silence sharpen every word. "Tell us, are the things spoken about your kind true?" The human hesitated. Every pair of eyes was locked on him. He could feel his heart hammering in his chest. "Yes," he finally said, his voice steady though his throat was dry. "What Lyra spoke is true." A storm of reactions filled the chamber. Some elders whispered angrily, some shook their heads in disgust, others leaned closer, fascinated, as if they had just uncovered a new universe hidden inside him. One younger elder whispered, "So fragile, so strange, yet so powerful." Lyra took a bold step forward. "If it is true," she said loudly, "then why do we hide from it? Why not learn what it means? Why not see what can be gained?" Her words cut through the chamber like a blade. The human saw the fury in some of the elders' eyes, but also the hunger in others. The eldest elder slammed his staff against the floor. "You speak recklessly, child," he thundered. "You risk the safety of our people with such foolish thoughts." But Lyra did not bow. She raised her chin, her silver hair catching the chamber's glow. "It is not foolish to ask," she said. "It is foolish to fear knowledge." The human watched the clash with uneasy silence. He realized that Lyra was not just curious anymore. She was challenging the very order of her world, and somehow his presence had become the weapon she used to fight them. One elder leaned forward, eyes sharp as a blade. "Human, do you understand what your kind represents? If what you claim is true, then your way of life could alter us, corrupt us, or even bind us." The word bind echoed in the chamber, carrying strange weight. The human swallowed hard. "I never came here to change you," he said softly. "I only answered what was asked." But his answer did not calm them. Instead, it only deepened their debate. One side of the council demanded isolation, insisting the human was too dangerous to keep. The other side whispered that he was an opportunity too rare, to waste, and between them stood Lyra, fearless, challenging both sides with her voice. Then, in a moment of silence, she spoke the words that made the human's blood run cold. "If you fear him so much, then give him to me," she said boldly. "Let me take responsibility for him. Let me prove there is nothing to fear." The chamber erupted in chaos. Voices clashed like thunder, staffs struck the floor again and again. Some elders shouted that she was mad, others demanded she be punished for her disrespect, but a few leaned back, their eyes thoughtful, as if the idea was not as impossible as it first sounded. The human stood frozen, his mind racing. Lyra had placed herself between him and the council. She was not only defending him, she was claiming him. And in that moment, he realized she was willing to defy her entire world for the truth she sought. Finally, the eldest elder raised his staff high, and the chamber fell silent. His voice was heavy with warning. "This discussion is not finished, but neither will we decide tonight." He pointed his staff toward the human. "You will remain here under watch until the council has chosen your fate." Two guards stepped forward, their tall frames glowing with faint energy. They moved closer, ready to escort him out. But as the human turned, he caught Lyra's eyes once more. There was no fear in them, only a a silent vow that this was not the end. As the doors of the chamber closed behind him, he could still hear the echoes of their debate. But louder than any voice was the question burning in his own mind. What was Lyra truly after? Curiosity, rebellion, or something deeper? And could he survive being the center of a storm that was only beginning to rise? The choice. The human sat alone in his chamber. The walls glowed with a soft light, but they felt like prison bars around him. Since the council meeting, guards stood outside his door day and night. He was no longer just a guest. He was a question, a problem, a danger. But in his mind, only one thought returned again and again. Lyra. Her words to the council had been wild, reckless, impossible, yet she had said them with fire in her voice. "Give him to me," she had demanded, and the human could not forget the way her silver eyes had burned when she looked at him. Late that night, when the station was silent, the door hissed open. Lyra slipped inside without fear, moving like a shadow. The guards never stopped her, as if even they knew she was beyond rules. She stood before him, her eyes calm, but her voice sharp with urgency. "You must decide," she said softly. The human frowned. "Decide what?" She stepped closer, her silver hair catching the faint glow of the chamber. "Whether you will trust me, or trust the council." He shook his head. "The council sees me as a threat." "They see you as change," she corrected. "And change always frightens those who cling to power." Her words sank into him like stones falling into deep water. She was right, he realized. The council did not fear him because of who he was. They feared what he represented. They feared the unknown. But Lyra, she did not fear. She reached out her hand, her voice lower now, almost a whisper. "If you stay silent, they will decide for you, and you will lose everything. But if you choose me, we can make our own path." The human stared at her hand. To take it meant to break every rule of her world. To refuse meant to surrender himself to the council's judgment. Either way, the future would change. He pulled back slightly, his voice uneasy. "Why me? Why risk so much for someone you barely know?" Lyra's eyes softened, but her tone stayed firm. "Because you are not just someone. You are proof that life can be different, that bonds can be made without order, without control." Her words struck him deeper than he expected. She was not chasing curiosity anymore. She was chasing freedom, and somehow she saw that freedom in him. Suddenly, a loud chime echoed through the chamber, the council's signal. A voice spoke from the wall, cold and commanding. "Human, tomorrow you will face final judgment. The council will decide whether you remain here or are removed from this place forever." The message ended, and silence returned. The human's chest tightened. Removed, he thought. What did that mean? Exile? Or something worse? He glanced at Lyra, and for the first time he saw fear flicker in her silver eyes. "They will not let you go free," she whispered. "They cannot. Not after what has been said." The human sat down heavily, his mind torn apart. If he let the council choose, he might never see freedom again, but if he chose Lyra, he would step into a path filled with danger, rebellion, and unknown risks. He stared at the floor, whispering to himself, "Both choices are traps." Lyra knelt in front of him, her hand once more reaching for his. Her voice was soft, but every word carried iron. "Then choose the trap that belongs to you, not to them." For a long moment, neither of them moved. The air between them felt heavy, filled with questions neither dared to ask. Finally, the human raised his eyes and met hers. Her silver gaze held no lies, no fear, only certainty. She was ready to fight the entire council if it meant standing by her choice. And deep inside, the human felt something shift. He was no longer just a specimen, no longer only a guest. He was standing at the edge of a path where his next step could change both their lives forever. The night ended with silence, but inside that silence lived a storm. Because when the council gathered tomorrow, the human knew he could no longer hide behind uncertainty. He would have to choose, The council, or Lyra, order, or freedom, obedience, or the unknown. The secret meeting. The night after the council's warning, the human lay awake in his chamber. Sleep would not come. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the circle of elders, their cold eyes watching him like predators. Every time he breathed, he remembered the voice that promised final judgment. He did not notice the faint hiss of the door until she was already inside. Lyra moved like a shadow, quick and silent. Her silver eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. She carried no fear, though she had broken more rules tonight than ever before. "You should not be here," he whispered, sitting up. "They will know." She shook her head, stepping closer. "They watch the halls, but not the places they think are empty." Her voice carried a hint of triumph, like someone who had beaten the system at its own game. The human frowned. "Why risk this? You could lose everything." Lara knelt beside him, her silver hair falling over her shoulders. "Because if we do nothing, you will lose everything first." Her words cut deep, sharper than any blade. For the first time, the human saw not only curiosity in her eyes, but determination. She was no longer a girl asking questions. She was a fighter preparing for rebellion. She unrolled a small glowing tablet between them. On its surface were shifting lines and maps of the station. "This place is not as strong as it looks," she said quietly. "There are gaps. There are blind spots. Places even the council does not guard." The human stared at the maps. Was she suggesting what he thought? "You want to escape?" he asked. Lyra's lips curved into a half smile. "Not escape. Not yet. First, I want to show you something. Something the council keeps hidden even from our own people." His chest tightened, torn between fear and curiosity. "What if this is a trap?" he asked. Lyra tilted her head, her eyes glowing softly. "Then I am trapped with you," she said. Her voice was simple, but the weight in it was real. For a moment, silence stretched between them. He realized that she had risked more than her future. She had risked her life by standing with him. And now she was asking him to take the same step. Finally, he nodded. "Show me." Lyra's smile widened, quick and fierce. She turned off the glowing tablet and tucked it beneath her robes. "Tomorrow night," she whispered, "when the council believes you are locked in, we will leave, only for a short while, only into the places they forbid us to see. And there, you will understand why they fear you so much." The human's pulse quickened. Her words lit a fire of suspicion inside him. What could the council possibly be hiding that tied directly to him? What truth was dangerous enough to shake an entire species? He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Why me, Lyra? Why risk this for someone from another world?" Her silver eyes softened, her hand brushing lightly across his arm. "Because you make me feel free," she whispered. "In our world, everything is measured, controlled, decided before it begins. But you are different. You remind me that not all life needs chains." Her words left him speechless. For so long he had felt small, powerless, trapped on a station where every door was locked. But now, in her voice, he felt something else. He was not powerless. He was dangerous, not because of strength, not because of weapons, but because he carried something her people had forgotten long ago. Choice. The sound of footsteps echoed faintly outside the chamber. Lyra's eyes flashed. She pressed her finger to her lips, signaling silence. The human's heart pounded as the guards passed by, their heavy boots shaking the floor. For a long breath, they both stayed frozen in the shadows. Then, as the sound faded away, she leaned close and whispered, "Tomorrow, when the lights dim, we meet again. Do not be afraid, for the fear is theirs, not ours." With that, she slipped out of the chamber as quickly as she had come. The door sealed shut behind her, leaving the human alone once more. But he no longer felt the same. The silence of the room was different now, alive with secrets, alive with possibility. He lay back against the wall, his mind racing. What would she show him? What was the council hiding? And could he truly trust her, or was he already too deep to turn back? As he closed his eyes, he realized something dangerous and undeniable. He was no longer only a guest on this alien station. He was no longer only a specimen. He had become a spark in dry grass, and with Lyra's help, that spark was about to set fire to everything. The conflict. The next night came slowly. The human waited in silence, every sound of the station making his nerves tighten. When the lights dimmed, he knew it was time. The door hissed open, and Lyra appeared once more, her eyes burning with secret fire. "Come," she whispered, her hand reaching for his. Together they slipped through the empty halls, moving like shadows in a world built of glass and light. She led him through hidden corridors, down forgotten passages where the walls were cracked and unlit. The air grew colder, the hum of the station quieter. It felt like stepping into the bones of something ancient. Finally, they stopped before a massive sealed door. Symbols glowed faintly across its surface, pulsing like a heartbeat. "This," Lyra whispered, "is what the council hides." The human frowned. "What's behind it?" She placed her hand on the glowing marks. "Truth," she said, "and fear." But before she could speak more, a sharp sound broke the silence. The heavy thud of footsteps, not one pair, but many. Guards. The human's chest tightened. Lyra's eyes went wide, and in an instant she pulled him into the shadows. Through a crack in the wall they watched as 3 guards appeared, tall and glowing with faint energy. They stopped before the door, speaking in low voices. "Council fears, she knows. The girl must be watched. If she tries again, we end it here." The human's blood ran cold. They were not only watching him, they were watching her. Lyra's ha, and tightened on his arm, silent but steady. Even in danger, she did not shake. When the guards left, Lyra pulled him deeper into the hidden path. Her voice was sharp, urgent. "Do you see? They do not fear you alone. They fear what I will do with you. That is why they hide the truth." The human's mind raced. He had thought he was the target, but now he understood. Lyra was in danger too, and the council would not hesitate to silence her. As they moved farther through the hidden tunnels, the silence broke again. This time not with guards, but with whispers, alien whispers echoing off the walls. They were not alone. Figures stepped out of the shadows, a small group of younger aliens, their eyes burned not with anger, but with curiosity. "Is it true?" one of them asked, staring at the human. "Do humans really reproduce, as she says?" The human froze, unsure what to answer. But Lyra stepped forward boldly. "Yes," she said, her voice like steel. "And that is why the council fears him, because he carries what they cannot control." The young aliens exchanged looks, some filled with wonder, others with unease. One whispered, "If this is true, then maybe our world can change." Another hissed back, "Or maybe it will be destroyed." The human felt the tension rise like heat in a closed room. He had not asked to be a symbol, but here, in this moment, he was no longer just a man. He was a line drawn in the sand, and everyone who saw him had to choose which side they stood on. Suddenly, one of the younger aliens stepped forward, his eyes burning with anger. "You are dangerous," he spat. "You will bring chaos here. The council is right. Better you be erased before you corrupt us all." He lunged, faster than the human expected, but before he could strike, Lyra moved. Her staff cracked against his chest, sending him stumbling back. "Enough!" she shouted, her voice echoing in the tunnel. The group froze, the air heavy with fear and respect. Her silver eyes burned as she stood between the human and them. "If you touch him, you will answer, or to me. If you fear him, then leave. But if you want truth, then follow." The silence was deep. One by one, the younger aliens lowered their heads. Some left, slipping back into the darkness. But a few stayed, their eyes steady. They were not ready to fight her, but they were ready to listen. The human stood still, his heart pounding. For the first time, he saw how dangerous Lyra truly was. Not because of her strength, but because of her voice. She could turn fear into fire, doubt into belief, and that power was even greater than the council's. As they left the tunnels and returned toward his chamber, he spoke quietly. "You've made enemies tonight." She gave him a faint smile. "I've always had enemies, but now I have something stronger too." Her eyes met his, shining like silver flames. "I have a choice, and I have you." The human swallowed hard. He knew then that the storm was no longer coming. It had already begun. The council, the guards, the whispers, the rebels. All of them were circling, waiting for the next spark, and in the middle of it all stood him and Lyra, bound by a secret, bound by a choice, and surrounded by a conflict that could burn the whole station down. The big decision. The council chamber was silent when the human entered, not the silence of peace, but the silence before a storm. Dozens of eyes fixed on him as the heavy doors closed. He could feel the weight of judgment pressing down from every corner. Lyra walked at his side, her steps steady, her silver eyes glowing with defiance. The guards tried to keep her behind, but she pushed forward without fear. The elders sat high on their thrones, their staffs glowing faintly with power. Their faces were carved with stone-like calm, but their eyes revealed fire. The eldest elder spoke, his voice sharp and heavy. "Human, the time has come. Your presence has divided our people. You bring questions that poison order and desires that weaken control." He raised his staff, its glow brighter now. "Today you must choose. You may leave this station forever. Return to the void and never return, or you may remain under our command. But if you remain, you must belong not to yourself. You will be studied, controlled, contained." The human's heart pounded. Leave forever? Or stay as a prisoner? It was no choice at all. It was a chain disguised as mercy. Before he could speak, Lyra stepped forward. Her voice rang clear, cutting across the chamber. "No, he has another choice." The elders turned their burning eyes toward her. "You dare interrupt this council again?" one hissed. But she did not bow. She raised her chin, her silver hair catching the chamber's glow. "He can choose me," she declared. "He can choose freedom. He can choose a bond, not a chain." Gasps echoed through the chamber. Some elders shouted in fury, others whispered in shock. The human stood frozen, every heartbeat echoing in his ears. Her words were impossible, reckless, yet they carried more truth than anything the council had spoken. The eldest elder slammed his staff, the sound like thunder. "Silence! This is madness!" But even as he shouted, the whispers among the other aliens grew louder. Some were not angry, they were curious, even inspired. The human looked at Lyra, her silver eyes locked onto his, steady and fearless. She was offering him not safety, not comfort, but danger, rebellion, and freedom. And deep inside, he knew the council was right about one thing. If he chose her, their world would never be the same. The eldest elder leaned forward, his voice sharp with fury. "Human, you will answer now. Do you choose exile or captivity?" The human's mouth went dry. Exile meant leaving forever, never knowing what secrets the council still hid, never seeing Lyra again. Captivity meant chains, experiments, a life in the shadows of their control. But then he remembered Lyra's words in the dark tunnels. "Choose the trap that belongs to you, not to them." His hands clenched into fists, his eyes lifted to meet the council's, then turned toward Lyra. She did not speak, but her eyes begged him for only one thing. Truth. The silence stretched. Every alien in the chamber leaned closer. Even the walls seemed to hold their breath. Finally, the human spoke. "I choose." The chamber erupted before he could finish. Guards rushed forward, elders shouted, the glowing staffs clashed against the floor. The sound was thunder, chaos breaking free. Lyra grabbed his arm, pulling him close, her voice fierce in his ear. "Do not fear. Whatever happens, you are not alone now." The lights flickered, shadows tore across the chamber, and in the storm of voices, the human's unfinished words still hung in the air. A choice made, but unheard. A decision that could burn their world or remake it. The Council's fury. Lyra's defiance. The human's secret answer. All of it was swallowed by the rising storm. And as the chamber shook with chaos, the story of human and alien had only just begun. The And enjoyed the story. Like it and subscribe for more.